All right, here we go. We live. We back. Another episode R&R podcast where the X's and O's meet your real world experiences. I'm your co-host Richard Daniels.
I'm your other co-host Rodney White. Before one thing we do on our podcast, Brittany, is that we give everybody flowers at the beginning of a podcast and sometimes at the end also. I just want to give you flowers of what you're doing right now for the ladies side of basketball, recruiting, helping them with exposure, experience. Me and Rich talk about it all the time, about how we try to help young men on our end with exposure. And I know it's so tough to get kids D1, D2, D3, but the fact that you guys, create your own lane, create your own service and help girls out, I think that's really dope on my end. And I think that's amazing what y'all doing. And I was on your page, your IG page, and I see how many girls are going through your process, liking your page, and you guys are doing a great job so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
It's been fun.
Without further introduction, AssistU Director and Owner, Brittany Hudson.
Well, hey, I'm Brittany. I have known Rich and his family for a long time. I used to coach high school at West Forsyth. And so, talking on this recruiting side, I think that was a formative period for me of I had players that were going through this process and I didn't know everything I knew now. And I wish I did. I feel like I did everything I could at that time for my players, but had I had the knowledge that I have now, maybe I could have been even a better, resource for them, advocate for them. And so it's been fun. I have 2 kids now, so I've stepped away from coaching, but AssistU has given me a way to scratch the itch of wanting to still coach, but I can be a remote coach, so to speak. So I'm living my best life over here.
Yeah, listen, I love what you're doing, and I actually want to congratulate you because I know this is coming up on 2 years of AssistU and
Yeah,
building
thank
with the
you.
girls. So congratulations to you first off.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's flown by.
Oh yeah. So just give us a little bit of background. I'm a kind of share my brief instances with you as far as being at Glenn and playing against West and those battles. But just kind of share a little bit about yourself, your high school experiences. They don't know your winning record and everything that you did prior to becoming a coach. So just share a little bit with us about your background and just how you got into coaching.
Don't share any stories from your dad's point of view as officiating those games back in the day, and then we'll be good. So I have always loved basketball. I grew up playing AAU. I went to Bishop Mcguiness. I was on the first 4 state championship teams. I played with a lot of girls who were better than me. And it was one of the best experiences of my life, honestly. I would go back and relive those 4 years over a million times. Just the experiences we had and then the challenges. I mean, I played with girls that went and played in the ACC and, several kids that played at a high level of Division I. And I think when I ended up playing Division II, when I came in as a freshman, I was more prepared. I was able to have a good career at Pfeiffer University because I was prepared with what happened at Bishop. I was playing against people who were better than me every day. And I will say the challenge, I think, helped me build the career I had at Pfeiffer. On the recruiting side, that was before social media and YouTube and all. Now I think we live in a different space where it's so much information. It's like, what's real, what's not. That was kind of when I played back in the day, you had to try out for a team.
Right.
And there weren't 500 teams. You had X amount of teams and you had to go make it. And then you played in the state championship to get to nationals. And I mean, it was the best time of AAU in my opinion, but it was different. And recruiting really stressed me out. I look back now and I think I was a fraction of the player I became in college, not because of my coaches, not because of the situation I was in, just confidence, constantly fearing I would let myself down on my goals or let my parents down. My parents, as all are doing, are investing a lot of time, a lot of money into it. And it wasn't even necessarily my parents made me feel that, but as a young kid, you know what your parents are doing, And so I like I said, played with girls who were really talented. And there were some big time coaches in our gym. They were not there to see me. And so it wasn't like what it is now, where it's.
You got to come back into the other one. It's in there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. It kept falling out. So I felt like I was paralyzed, so to speak, on the floor. Just, I was the ultimate like role kid. Coach says I was like the glue kid that held it together. And again, I think that prepared me, but sometimes that's not what stands out in the recruiting process. So it's like constantly at odds. So for me, even when I went and played college at Pfeiffer, during the summers, I coached AAU. I've always thought I wanted to coach when I grew up. I had an internship at Duke. I always worked a lot of camps. I coached AAU. I tried to network to prepare for this career. And I was just passionate about helping kids in the recruiting process because it stressed me out so bad. And I didn't understand it. And so I just wanted kids to know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I also, I played Division II. I didn't know anything about Division II until really, truly my senior year started. I had put all my eggs into some Division I baskets, and those coaches got fired and let go, and those relationships were dead. And now I'm like back to square one without any knowledge. And so when Pfeiffer came and offered me a full scholarship, I took it. I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to make the most of this opportunity, because the goal was just to play college basketball. Luckily, it worked out. I had a great time, great career there. But even I went on to coach college at Campbell, had the best experience, worked for a legendary coach, Wanda Watkins, and learned so much about the recruiting process from the college coach chair. And that's when it started to open up my eyes of like what matters, what doesn't matter, little nuanced things that I never knew. Like my parents, whenever I was on a college call, they'd be like, you better treat it like a interview. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Absolutely. I'm a super sarcastic person. I love to joke, but on a phone call, I was like tight and nervous, like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And when I was at Campbell, I got to go recruiting one time and for like a JUCO event. And I talked to all these coaches and they're like, Brittany, if we knew you were sarcastic and this funny, we would have recruited you harder. And being likable is part of the process, and being able to connect. And again, you just learn. And because, my grandfather got sick, I wanted to move closer to home. I'm a big family person. I got into high school coaching. And I really just missed the process of helping kids get there. When you coach Division I, you can't coach AAU or anything like that or train. So I went to West Forsyth. I was really blessed with some very talented girls. That was all them, less me. I was really put in a great situation and had a number of kids that played at different levels. And then truly, I started helping kids just in the area, in the triad. Who maybe didn't understand what to do. I didn't know everything, but I'm like, hey, you're good enough to play. You could get some money for this. And I started trying to help. And then fast forward to 2020, COVID hits. I'm pregnant with my daughter at the time. And that's when I decided to step away from coaching. And for me, I just was like, hey, I want to focus on just being mom. And I love being a mom. Like, it's so fulfilling. But not to sound silly, I really feel like God has put a purpose over my life to help kids, and help kids in ways that I wish I had help. And that's, how AssistU was kind of born. I didn't want to help just one set of kids in one AAU program. There's a lot of things that are great about AAU, and there's a lot of things that are broken. Yeah. I don't want the mess. I just want to be able to work with kids and mentor. Selfishly, I love coaching. So I started this as like a little fun side project, and now it's become a bigger business, which I'm thankful for, and have been really blessed to work with some really great players. Yeah. But like I said, I'm living my best life. I love everything I do. My husband has to tell me to get off my phone. And just because, I feel like all things I'm interested in, I get to do in one place, and I get to do it while still being a mom, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
You kind of went into our first question, which is great, but we just want to know, what inspired you to create the high school basketball recruiting service, and what's some problems that you see in the recruiting space?
Yeah. So when I got out of teaching, I worked behind the scenes for an AAU club, and they had hired someone else to do just recruiting and help their kids and advocate for them. And that was the first time I've seen that, where someone like went out and hired someone to do it. And it was so effective. Um, and then I learned different things about the process and just building relationships and and I saw a lot of kids, in my opinion, who were really skilled and better fall through the cracks because they just didn't have someone advocating for them. And so I started AssistU just to be the advocate, just to be, I don't like the term recruiter because I think there's a lot of just like bad experiences with that. I think of myself still as a coach. And again, it kind of goes back to my experience and just wanting to be able to be the one to say, hey, you can play. I've spoken to so many girls in the triad alone now, on a different scale, who say they want to quit basketball, and it's not because their heart says it, it's because they don't think they can and they don't know. And so I just wanted to educate people and parents. I didn't care if I worked with 5 kids, it's grown. But it was just something that I really believed in. I've always been passionate about and took the leap into it. Working with actually Lady Attack was the first club on the girls side I worked with, and had a great experience, and it kind of expanded from there. Yeah. Now, when you say like, what issues do I see? There's a lot. I don't know if we have time for all of that. But I will say, just in the recruiting space, I think it's really tough because there's the transfer portal. I mean, there's a lot of things stacking odds against high school kids these days. It's a lot different than when I played. And you have the transfer portal. There's a rule that could be passed in January to expand 5 years of eligibility at the D2 level. And that could trickle to other places. So that takes you back to the COVID days of, are the seniors going to stay? Are they going to go? And that just puts high school kids in a pickle. I've talked to Division II coaches who say, we're not going to offer kids until we know what happens with this ruling, because I can keep these seniors. So it's just going to continue trickling down. I would say the biggest issue in recruiting, in my opinion, is just misinformation or just misunderstanding. I think there's a misconception that parents aren't open to hearing their kid as anything other than Division I. I can only speak from the girls' side, but I've never experienced an issue with that. I think I'm a firm believer. My dad always taught me you can say anything you want to say as long as you can say it in a way that's respectful and receivable. And, you have to be able to read people well to know what they will receive and not. But of course, it would be great for my business if every kid I worked with played Division I. Yeah. It's just not realistic. And so I give kids an evaluation and just take it or leave it. This is my 2 cents of what I think I could help with. I can't guarantee offers, but this is where I think your kid could lie, and this is what I think I could do to help. And we've had some success off of that, but it's just really education of what this process, entails.
Yeah. The good thing about what you're doing is just along with what you hear a lot of times, even on like social media or when you talk about women's basketball in general, you're trying to advance the culture of women's basketball. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it from a more local or regional side, was with the kids in this area, which we need. We had Tyler Lewis on here, we had Josh Pittman on here. We've always talked about helping out in the area that you can, and you said something about like how this is your calling. Me and Rod talk about this all the time. Like, basketball is kind of like our ministry. If you coach, mm-hmm. you just fall in love with it because you get to know kids, or you get to find out a lot about yourself. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize when you do it at such a high level, like, they don't understand what you had to go through as a young coach and winning the state championship, but also being kind of similar in age or close in age with those girls. And so I'm sure there's some unseen and unheard battles that you went through as a young coach, to be a 4-time state champ as a player and then turn around and win a state championship as a coach. Like, that's a huge accomplishment that a lot of people cannot, put on their accolades. That kind of gets us into our next question. As an evaluator, like, what specific traits or what is it that you're necessarily looking for that would make somebody be a part of AssistU? Because obviously, you know, you're going to help girls get to whatever level that they are, but they have to have something with them in order for them
Right.
to be recruitable. So what is it that you
Right.
evaluate?
So when I take a kid on, I always ask to watch film. Highlights fine, but a full game's better because you can see more. 9 times out of 10, a game that the kid thinks is their best game isn't their best game. It's just the game that they scored the most points. So I've always been really big on film. I was never the most like naturally athletic. I'm super clumsy. I had to be the most skilled, the highest IQ kid. And so I love watching film. Film doesn't lie. My college coach taught me that the hard way. And for me, like, I'm willing to work with any player if they're willing to hear what I say and give them a reasonable level, you know, of like transparency on what level they can play. And I never put a ceiling on a kid. But I will say, hey, I think this is where the bulk of your recruiting will be, and this is why. If you want to get to here, this is what you need to do. And it's not always about the player, it's just about the levels. Like for on the women's side, I always say to play Division 1, obviously if you're over 6 foot, that's a bonus. It's not a necessity, it's a bonus. But you have to have a superpower. Like there's so many kids that train every part of their game. I was one of those kids. I was very versatile. I don't know if being versatile always serves kids in this process.
Yeah.
You got to be great at something. Like, what do you do better than anybody else? And because at the Division 1 level, it's pieces. You're putting 5 pieces together. I feel like at the Division 2 level, colleges want the versatility. They want to be able to play you in, you know, a multitude of positions. So those kids who are tweeners that are like the 5'9", 5'11", sometimes, depending on their position, can fall in that like tweener. Maybe they could play below Division 1. And that's not, there's 5'7" girls that will go play Division 1. But I'm just saying, if a kid is a tweener when I watch film, again, there's no ceiling, but like, hey, the bulk of your recruiting could be here, or these are the conferences we need to look at. And so for me, I don't look and watch film just to see one skill, because for me, it's better to work with kids in a variety of ways. That way, if a coach is looking for something specific, I can recommend, you know, a few kids that fit that versus all my kids are the same.
Yeah.
But for me, they're open to being educated because different leagues have different styles of play. There are certain leagues that prefer more athletic players. They play up and down a lot faster. There are certain leagues that are like more set driven, prefer skill over athleticism. Not every school in a league falls in that category, but when I watch film, I just try to take away what is this kid do best. If they don't necessarily have one thing to stand out, I talk to them about that and say, hey, you're really talented, but we got to figure out what your identity is here. And then 2, you know, it can't just be scoring. Like if you're a really good scorer, awesome. Because I work with a lot of kids who are Division 1, but there's levels to Division 1. Yeah. And you got to be competitive. Like you got to be a dog. I hear that a lot. Like I'm a dog, and they don't know what that means. Yeah. You got to be so competitive. It hurts sometimes, you know, in the space with AAU, winning doesn't matter as much sometimes now. And so I think kids that play with the edge, the gym rats that are really serious, some kids like the idea of playing college basketball because it's a dream. I educate kids on what that looks like at 6 a.m., you know, in preseason, and the sacrifices you have to make. And so for me, it's really the full package. It's like, I'm a firm believer, if you want to play college basketball, you can. You just got to be open to different levels. And I think that's the most important piece. Most freshmen in college don't score. You know, that's not their job. You're going to have to do something else to earn time. And so I just try to guide kids and give them advice on what I think they're doing really well, what schools or conferences would be worth pursuing. And then obviously what the kid wants matters. Like that's number 1. So when they come to me and say, hey, my dream's just Division 1, these are 10 schools I really like, I can mark off 5 normally. Yeah. 5, probably more than 5. And it's not because the kids don't good enough sometimes. It's just style of play. And so when I watch film, it's more so trying to get an evaluation of the kid, their style. I'll jot down some schools that I think they could potentially fit. I can't guarantee that, but I can get coaches to come eval and give me notes. And then I just reiterate, like, keep the main thing the main thing. You gotta focus on basketball. Some kids get carried away with the hype, and coaches are not scared to pull offers these days, and they won't call you to say, hey, I'm pulling the offer. They're just going to ghost you. And so I just try to keep kids grounded. Sometimes that means give kids confidence, but for me, film is good just to get an idea of the full scope of the kid, what they need to work on. Because for me, it's so important as a coach, the coach piece. If I give you feedback and say, hey, you got to get better at XYZ, if you can't receive that, it's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to put my AssistU stamp on a kid if they don't have good grades, if they're not high character. And that's not to say I work with some kids who make mistakes. We can work on that. Don't lie to me. Transparency is key. Like, be honest, because we can work through that. I'm not going to lie about it, but we can work through it. And then, like, you have to be able to take feedback and work on it. Otherwise, I can't trust to recommend you to coaches, because that relationship is just as important as my relationship with the kid.
Yeah.
Brittany, I just like the fact that you're just real. Like
Thank you.
You're real
I
with
try.
The parents, you're real with the kids, and I think us, me and Rich on the guy side, like, every guy we coach think they can go Division I or even Division II, and it's hard. It's hard. It's hard these days, and I like the fact that you just real and just keep it real with everybody, and just because at the end of the day, it is your brand, and you have to, hold it to a high standard. So I love that, because we need more. I think it was Tyler last time said delusional. Everybody's delusional.
Yeah.
When it comes to this.
In the girls' space, I don't think it's as bad. There's a layer to it. The people I've spoken to, luckily, I've not had to see that too much. And I always tell parents, ask me. Like, no question's too dumb. And because if a parent's like, why did this kid get this offer and my kid hasn't? I don't want them to hold that in. That makes it worse. I'd rather, you can be happy for someone to get an offer and still be like, when's my time? Like, that's when bad things fester. There is sometimes people need like a grounding, just like this is not realistic and this is why. Being real, like, I do try to be very honest, very transparent. Nobody has time to waste. And I wish I would have had someone that would have said in high school, Brittany, you need to be looking at D2 schools as well. I put all my eggs into a school really early. That staff got let go, and then it's the 11th hour, And so, but being real and being honest isn't for everyone. And so I do warn people when they come, I'm like, I'm very honest. It's not to be rude. It's out of respect for you. Yeah. One of my favorite, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Did it? Okay. One of my favorite coaches from high school, like, she was always very direct. I do well with black and white. I think recruiting's stressful enough. You get in that gray area of like hesitation or uncertainty. It's a bad space. It's a bad space for me. It's a bad space for them. So I always tell people, if you're upset about something, call me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. This is about your kid. If you disagree, we can disagree, and I'll explain why I think something. I never try to cage someone, but this is a full-time job for me. And so, like, you guys have been doing this for a long time. The reality is, when you're on this side of things, you know how things work a little different, and parents don't always see that. You can start seeing a trajectory of a kid as like a 7th, 8th grade kid, and that trajectory can switch
real quick.
It can switch real quick, but that's why I think, like, it's really important to have someone who's just honest, loves your kid, like, would go to bat for your kid. I will be honest, when I coached high school, it wasn't received as well as it is now. Like, because it's a service, I think people hear me a little different.
Yeah.
The thing I laugh about the most is, like, if I would have said this when I was, at West, because I had a lot of those conversations, it's different, especially as a young coach. But now I always laugh. I'm like, man, this is like the best job, because if I would have said this with the coach's hat on, they would have thought I was biased or not. I want every kid to succeed. Like I said, if every kid got a Division I offer with AssistU, I'd be in real big business. Right. But the best fit, the whole point of my business is like help you find a fit. And obviously with the transfer portal, you see every situation's not a fit. And so, we're working on it day to day.
So, yeah. So how do you build those real relationships with college coaches, and what do they look for you out of your service?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm transparent. And so I think I do a good job when people get to know me. Like you said, like I am real. I'm not a transactional person. We live in a very transactional place with recruiting right now. And for me, luckily, I was in the college space for a few years and I had prepared for that. So I've gotten to know some coaches at other places. It's a very small world. There are coaches at the Division I level, D2 level, D3 level that I consider close friends. Like they'll text me about my family. And so it's a personal level there. And then I also just try to be really intentional with maintaining relationships. Right now I'm writing little postcards to every coach I can think of, just saying, good luck this season. Let me know what I can do. And then I just try to help them. I feel like, again, if people get to know me, they'll know I'm more willing to do what I can to help you than what I need from you back. And I would say that's been the biggest hurdle for my business so far is there are a lot of recruiting services that charge coaches. I don't. It's free. So that also helps with building relationships. I don't want it to be transactional. I want people to know when I'm sending you kids, it's not because you're paying me. It's because I believe these kids could be a good fit. And I think as I get more experience with colleges in different regions and things like that, when I send them kids, they go watch them play. They know I'm not going to send them a kid unless I'm pretty confident that that kid could play at that level. And then I also don't argue. Like, I think that's a something that coaches can make a mistake on sometimes is making it so personal. We all love these kids, and it's good. You have to advocate for them. But for me, this is my stance. I always compare recruiting. You got to go with me. I know y'all are men, but like for women, if you don't love something in the store when you're shopping, when you get it home, you're not going to wear it. It's going to sit in your closet. You're not going to use it. It's the same in recruiting. If a coach doesn't love a kid, I'm not going to beg them. I'm not a car salesman. And I tell parents that up front. I want somebody to love your kid. I want somebody who really wants them, because freshman year is rough. Like you're going to play worse. You're going to have more bad days than good days as a freshman. You want somebody who's in the foxhole with you, So I don't push it. If a coach says, hey, they're not for me, I'll say, hey, can you give me any feedback? And are there any schools you think she does fit? Like, let's still get some value out of this, but I'm not gonna push. I'm not gonna make it personal. I'm not gonna try to leverage like, hey, let's get this offer to go get this offer. I don't believe in that. I always tell kids, my goal is not to give you 50 offers. Sometimes for really talented kids, it's a natural part of this process. Yeah. I'm not out here pushing for like offers I know they wouldn't take. I'm working on behalf of like what I think this kid really wants. And so coaches can respect that too. I'm not trying to sell them on somebody that they'd never have a chance with. But like I said, for me, it's personal. There's a Division I coach in this area that like she did swim lessons with my kids. There's a Division I coach in the Midwest. She was my bridesmaid. There's one at Wilmington that like is one of my really close friends. And so, for me, if you do it right, it's relational. It's not transactional. I check in and just say, how are you? And it's simple stuff, but it's just intentional. So for me, I would say that is how I've been able to build relationships. And then two, what do they look for me? I think just transparency. I think that's the key to everything, is transparency. And then to be honest, I try to make myself a resource. I mean, there's coaches who will be out of town or like from out of the state and say, Brittany, I'm coming to North Carolina. Who do I need to see? Dude, I'll make you a whole calendar of every kid I think. And I've done it. Like, I'll come if you need me to come. I'll get this practice moved to 7 p.m. if you'll go. And just trying to, we have some scrimmages coming up, and the ones that my players will play in, I'll send emails and say, hey, my kid is going to be here. Come check her out if you're going to be there. We'll go in person and advocate and work on their behalf and just not bug people. And I can read body language if somebody's like, doing their thing, but just trying to say like, hey coach, how are you? I'm not going to bug them, and just say, hey, let me know what you think. And then go from there. Because for me, everybody thinks this recruiting process is about offers. To me, the most important piece is feedback. Because if you get feedback from coaches that say, hey, I don't think she fits us because she's not athletic enough, well, then that could be an indicator that's the conference isn't a good fit. Let's move. Like, if we get that consistent feedback, that's good for the kid to know. And then I'll say, hey, honey, you're not the most athletic kid. That's okay. You don't need to go train this 24/7. Let's focus on your strengths. Let's be the best at this.
Mm-hmm.
And these are some ways to hide that part. And so it's just a little bit more strategic, which is like the fun part for me. I don't get to strategize like scouts anymore, but I can strategize helping kids how to accentuate their strengths and hide their weaknesses a little bit more.
Yeah, we were talking last week, and one of the things that we heard or that we got back was just being an all-star at your role. You
Yeah,
know, so that's great to hear that, because a lot of kids are trying to be the star, and we all know there's one player or maybe two on a college team who the ball goes to 85, 90% of possession. So
that's right.
you have to figure out a way to, get on the court, whether it's, just being, like you said, an IQ player. If you're going to be a point guard, you have to know all five positions. If you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
a person that rebounds, you got to be a tenacious rebounder, So just hearing that from you, just as far as helping on the recruiting side, I think that helps people, especially because the truth, it hurts, but it helps.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Okay.
may sting when you hear it sometimes,
Yeah.
but again, you gotta, the number one thing, like in this recruiting process, I always tell parents, like, you gotta be with somebody who like loves your kid.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that they love your kid, you can trust them and hear them, even when it hurts a little bit, if it stings a little bit, you can hear them because you know they love your kid.
Yeah. The trust part, and like you said, just non-transactional. I think that is like an undervalued trait that a lot of people miss, and that kind of goes into our next question. Um, what do families misunderstand the most about the recruiting process? Obviously, the D1, D2, D3 conversation happens a lot, but what is something that you've seen that families misunderstand the most about the recruiting process?
So I would say probably educationally levels, knowing like I have a pyramid I use that kind of like ranks even conferences. Like I have 5 levels of Division 1. So when a parent thinks my kid's D1, I'm like, well, what level D1?
Yeah.
Because there's a low D1 that to me is very similar to division. Like a good D2 program could beat a low D1
Yeah.
any night.
Yeah.
And then there's, even in the highest tier, there's P4 teams that lose to mid majors. And so I think educationally, there's a lot of things that parents don't understand because you have to be in it to know it. But I would say the biggest misunderstanding and the biggest miscommunication is the circuit stuff. I'm not trying to upset anybody, and it's not about any one circuit, but every circuit is not created equal, and every circuit is not the right fit for every kid. This stuff is expensive. I'm traveling to live periods and paying to get in too, and hotels and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, I'm watching some of these games and I'm like, this kid is not benefiting at all from being a part of this team. And so when I say the circuit stuff, to break it down for people listening, I think it's overhyped. Now, are there advantages to being on certain circuits if you're a certain level player? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's a fraction of the kids who play, For me, I always say when you're picking a team, you need to be on a team where you're in the mix. That doesn't mean you got to be the best player, but you got to not just, especially in AAU, you don't need to just have, a role. Like you got to be able to expose for the exposure. You got to be able to show what you can do. You got to be able to play in a system that fits you. I see kids that go to teams and I'm like, oh, that's a terrible fit because style of play. But they don't know. They're like, I'm on XYZ circuit. I won't call anybody out. And it's also like, where do they go? So on the girl side, I don't know where all the boys stops are, but even this year, there's brand new circuits. There's so many circuits now and so many shoes and all these things. And it all looks great, I'm sure. But if your kid is a low Division 1 kid or D2, even D3, you're gonna go to school probably regionally,
Yeah.
And if you're on a circuit that plays all over the country, those coaches don't recruit outside their region. Like
Mm-hmm.
for the girls, there's maybe 1 or 2 tournaments that coaches will go to outside the region at the D2, D3 level. And some kids don't know. we're working with a lot of kids right now who are 26s who played on teams all summer that played in places where they never had college coaches there. I just ran I ran two D2, D3 showcases. That used to be a big thing when I played. And I had a kid come up afterwards crying, and I'm like, oh God, she's hurt. What's wrong? And she was like, no, just thank you for doing this. I saw more coaches here tonight than I've seen in my entire AAU experience. And she was just thankful. And she was one that, like, I don't think ever thought she was Division I. She just wants to be able to find a place who wants her and wants to play. And I think there's a lot of kids who don't know or are playing for people who don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I have to believe that the adults don't know better, or they wouldn't be like trying to get these kids to play on certain teams, because to me, that's an indication you're just not familiar with the process. Because I mean, I've worked with kids that are D2, D3, and they don't play one live event in North Carolina or a touching state. And they're like, well, I know I'm better than da 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 da. And I'm like, but nobody's seen you.
Yeah.
Like, this was a bad fit. And so I really think when choosing an AAU team, you got to be honest with yourself. You got to have somebody who's unbiased, because some of these teams are going to tell you what you want to hear, because they need bodies, or they need people to be on the team to pay for stuff, to pay for the kids who are free. I'm not trying to get too hot with some of this stuff, but like, I've seen it. I've seen kids switch from like a higher circuit team to a quote unquote lower circuit team and get everything they want because they could just show what they do. So I think fit, role, I don't think you have to be the man. If you're on a really good team and can show that you can play with those guys, with those girls, then that can level up your recruiting in some ways. But it depends. It depends on the kid. And so, yeah, I would just say, like, circuits that's not the end all be all. You have to know who's watching your kid, what the market is. UConn can't recruit all of you. And the reality is like South Carolina, UConn, these top level programs, they're recruiting nationally ranked kids. And so they already know before a live period who they're sitting on. Now, will they discover somebody in that process? Sure. But typically, it's not hard. You go look at like the top kids, and they will discover some kids, of course, some surprises. But be realistic. Have somebody that you trust, who knows what they're talking about, because it's just so much money and time to be wasted.
Yeah. We have me and Rod, I mean, Rod runs an organization that he's been having for 10 plus years now.
Too long.
So I've been in the AAU circuit, not circuit, let me not say that, the AAU world for, I want to say maybe like my last year of college. I just started coaching in the summer and just been doing it ever since. And it's a mess. Like, it is chaotic. One thing I love about the girls' side that the boys don't have, that there's not as many smaller circuits, right? There's not as many, grassroots, whatever. And so I know a lot of times they will go to Kentucky and they will go play in, Tennessee and these different places. And like, typically that's where all the teams go.
Right.
That helps because now all the coaches know I can go to Georgia, I can go to Kentucky, I can, maybe have a stop in Charlotte, and everybody's going to be there. But you have these boys programs where it's literally like hoop group and, you got, I mean, it's a lot of places that people can go. You got the Puma circuit, you got Adidas Gold, you got Junior Gauntlet. I mean, it's just like,
it's a lot. Yeah.
The names sound like, hey, you're playing for this shoe circuit. But what I tell everybody is, if you're paying to play, right? Like, if you have to pay money to enter the tournament, then it's not a circuit.
Yeah.
It's not a circuit. And so people have to choose wisely with what they do and, where they play at. But you can also go play at, a Phenom where, as long as I've known those guys, D2 and D3 coaches are in there consistently.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you may have some D1s that come during a live period. Technically, everybody right now, with the way the portal stuff goes, that's your base, D2, D3, JUCO, NAI, and that's what people should be shooting for.
Yeah.
if your kid is a high school kid and he's not a top ranked kid.
Right. And you'll know if you'll know if you're one of those kids. You're not, those kids aren't the ones that have to claw their way. Typically those kids stand out above all the rest. I'm a firm believer that you can play on whatever circuit you want, whatever you want to say. Like you can play as long as you have coaches who are or as long as you have somebody advocating for you. It doesn't have to be me, but if you have a coach that's well connected or knows what they're doing, you got to have somebody who loves you and will go to bat for you and get you some feedback, and who knows what they're talking about a little bit. And so that's hard. It's really hard for parents. I will say that. I know it's hard for parents because you hear all these different things. So it's hard to know, but I will just say, like, obviously, yeah, you gotta be realistic and you gotta be open,
Yeah.
to whatever level you're gonna go. That's where you need to be, where those coaches are.
And it's become a hard work for high school coaches also because your kid will play in the summer, have a good summer, and then and they still no interest, no offer, anything. So like like
Mm-hmm.
me, like I'm emailing coaches to this day right now for 3 of my seniors, and I'm just hoping somebody just like scratch back or just give me some hope, some feedback on the
Mm-hmm.
kid.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's tough, man. It's tough. Like just on the boys' side, I'm pretty sure it's tough on the girls' side too. But
Oh, I know
it
it's
gets
even
tough.
tougher on the boys' side, though. Yeah.
And then at my school, all of the kids I have, they got like 4.0s, 4.2. Like it's just, I always tell kids sometimes like, yeah, academics they ain't matching up to the basketball. Like I won't want to send a kid that has a 4.2 to a junior college. No knock on junior colleges, but I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
just go ahead and start focusing on your degree and play club.
Yeah.
What's the goal?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of kids about club. I don't think that's something some kids know, like, especially even kids that are looking at D2, D3. For some kids, if you have the right grades, the right, socioeconomic status, things like that, you can go to school for free. When I played D2, I'd say probably 3/4 of my scholarship was academic. And so, for some kids that makes more sense, but you can go to some of these like public colleges or universities in North Carolina way cheaper, some kids for even free there, and play club. And like the level is still like high, it's not like it's low level. I just went and watched one of my former players is a club coach now, so I went and watched her team. It's all these triad kids who either started playing at a college level but didn't want to sacrifice their college experience to just be at a small school, like, and they're playing club and having a blast and getting to do both. So yeah, I think educating yourself on all the opportunities out there and not let basketball, like, truthfully, when I went through the process, it was like, well, I'll go wherever gives me a scholarship. And that's not the right way to start the process.
Right. No, I went through that same experience myself. I just wanted to hoop. Like I just wanted to keep hooping, and I went to a Christian college and I know I didn't want to go there, but they said come over here and play, and that's where I wanted to go. So the kids I have, even in my AU program, I always tell them like, listen, just don't go to a school because you just want to go hoop at the school. Like you want to make sure, like you said earlier, Brittany, it's a good fit for you. If
Mm-hmm.
not, you're gonna be done
Mm-hmm.
in school in a semester or a year, and now you wasted money because most small schools you can't get for a ride, stuff like that. So,
Right.
I use my experience that I had and like, listen, guys, like I know you want to keep going, but don't be like me. Don't be like Coach and try to go over this small school because I just want to keep hooping.
Yeah. No, I get that. Well, and then on the boys' side, especially, I know there's all these like developmental teams, and
Yeah.
they're starting on the girls' side, but in my experience, the girls' coaches have been very honest and transparent. With the people I know, they're really honest and transparent about, what that looks like. This is the team you'll be on. Where on the boys' side, I know that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And so that can be a little bit more difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
It is. It is. The next question: What advice would you give high school coaches like me, Rich, or on the women's side also? What advice would you give them when it comes down to recruiting?
So, step one, I think you're doing it, like you're reaching out to coaches via email. You can't control whether they respond to that or not. That's the hard part. I would just say when you send emails, short, sweet bullet points. I've gotten emails sent to me when I was at Campbell, like that are really long and they're coming from good intention, but people scan. And so bullet point, partner with other people in your area. I know that like when I was at West, if somebody said that, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I want to build my program. But I say that because when these coaches are in an area to see some kids, they want to see multiple teams. And so if you can partner with a really good program, in the triad right now, Winston-Salem Christian's a great program. They get college coaches over there all the time. If I was still at West, I would be trying to partner with Delaney and say, hey, what time do you practice? Oh, after school, I'm going to go after you. Anybody you have, like, help me and I'll help you out. Like, the reality is he's going to get some kids regardless. If they want to go play for Delaney, they're going to play for Delaney. Like, the kids I have here, I want the same exposure. Let me partner. I've seen where that has benefited people at times. And some coaches are willing and some aren't. But if it's about the kids, most of the time that helps. But keeping it short and sweet, I mean, you can also do that and say, hey, I'd love for you to check these guys out. There's also a few other kids in our area that it would be really good. You could check out multiple at a time. I always tell coaches, try to get into some multi-team events. I think you get more, exposure, and it's got to be the right ones. But if you can get to a tournament with 8 or more teams and then market that, email that out to coaches and say, hey, there's going to be 8 teams here and this is what I got. And like link a highlight film. I always link I'm giving away secrets, but like I always link a highlight like on their X page, because for girls, like that's big in recruiting. And so like there's the highlight, but then like go ahead and follow them, And so now like it's a 2 steps, 2 for 1. I mean, you guys know this, but some don't. Like if a college coach goes out, it counts as 1 recruiting day. If they see 1 team, it's 1 day. If they go to a tournament and there's 30 teams, it counts as 1 day. And so they're going to typically, especially when they're in season and busy, they're not going to go to 500 high schools. They're going to go to some of these bigger events. And so that can help. I'd also just say, I know it's hard when I like had my coaching hat on, but like be honest and be realistic with your kids. Obviously, coaches aren't in it for the money. They're in it because they really love these kids. Being honest, even if it's hard, it's not always well received. I think the more you can just show your intentions with that, but like keep chipping away. These kids need people who are honest, and it may not be what they want to hear to start, but the finish line is what we're trying to get to. And we're just trying to open that up. And then I would say also just try to build relationships. I thought Katrina Green, who took over at West, did a great job. She got her girls at a lot of college games. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great way to build relationships. Like for women's teams, they want to fill the gym. So you bring a whole team in. Coaches typically love that. They'll give you tickets. Normally, a lot of times they may not charge. Boys, I'm not as sure of, but she did a great job with that. And I think that helped build even more relationships for their program and for her. Just, exposure for her, who she is and what she's trying to build. And so I think following up is huge. A lot of times coaches will send emails and ask. And then when a coach follows through, they don't say anything. And you got to follow up. Like I like, I'm doing all this handwritten stuff now, but even an email, having kids follow up with an email, it just looks good. And it can start slow. Like when I was at West, I remember looking at some other teams in our area and I'm like, man, they know every coach. Mm-hmm. Well, I just slowly started trying to chip away and be intentional. And I feel like now that's how I've built a pretty good network. So even if it's 1 school a year, set a goal, like 1 school a year, I'm going to try to build this relationship. And maybe I'm going to try to go support some games. Maybe if, I can take my kids there, whatever. It helps educate the kids, but it also helps build those relationships. So yeah, that's what I would say.
We talk about it a lot. I think, now seeing a lot of our peers being in those college coach spaces, I think that helps. Mm-hmm. Because like you said, you have a few connections where even if you don't know, now you can reach out and you can get an honest answer versus, sometimes coaches big time.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? But
right.
Now
yeah.
I can get an honest answer. And so I think, like you said, networking and building connections is probably the best thing. I share with my parents all the time. The kid has to fit the mold of a college player. Mm-hmm. Like I'm hosting workouts at 7 a.m. and you're telling me, oh, I overslept, or my mama don't want to bring me, or, it's like, do you really want to go to college, or why should I stick my neck out there,
Right.
to risk
Right.
my credibility if you can't even sacrifice getting here on time one day out the week, or, whatever. And so
Yeah.
I think people definitely don't understand your relationships are super important.
Yes.
More than ever, before a coach can come out there just off word of mouth. Yeah, this kid is such and such, and they're going to drive out there and see him. But because you get a certain amount of days to recruit, or they haven't practiced and games in the middle of the season, so they can't do it.
And the portal,
Yeah.
like they don't have to go as much. Yeah.
Yeah, you have, your name is all you have. And so parents definitely don't understand that. Our last question, and so, like I said, Britt, we have 50 minutes and we've been just rolling. Time is flying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like I said, we love doing this as far as, just talking, because when you're passionate, like, you don't realize how much time go by, because
No, that's right.
we're just talking about basketball. What's one thing student athletes should start doing? Like, if they watch this podcast tomorrow, what's one thing that they should start doing to improve their recruiting exposure opportunities?
So number one, I always have to say, keep the main thing the main thing. Like, you got to be good. So work on it. And I'll be the first one to say, like, I love basketball. Obviously, I'm whatever age I am, still chasing basketball. But in high school, I don't think I knew what that looked like. I did extra training. I did the stuff with our team too. I did like strength stuff, but you don't always know what that looks like till you get there. If you're not doing extra stuff on top of the stuff you're doing with your team, you're already behind. You're not as serious as you think you are. So, like, number one, you got to keep the main thing the main thing. You got to be great at something. So if you watch this and you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm really good at this, and what are you great at? And if you're not great at something, go get great at something, period. You can't get recruited if you're not. And then I would say for girls, like, you got to have an X page. I think it's important. I think people spend all this crazy money on exposure events and all of the stuff, and they don't use free resources. Like, on the girls' side, X is really important. Name recognition is huge. Face recognition is important, because if I call a coach and say, hey, coach, have you ever heard the name of so-and-so, whatever? And he's like, oh, I know that name. How do I know that name? You've already won. He thinks that name's important. She thinks that name's important. You've like got him a little bit. If it's like, no, I've never heard of them, what can you tell me? It's okay, we can work with it. But if it's like, no, I do know, it sounds so familiar, we're in there. That's step one. And then two, like, it's important to market yourself. Like, film's really important. Posting when you're going on some visits, it helps. Like, I wish you didn't have to post that stuff, but sometimes it does matter in the process of like timelines and coaches getting more eyes on you. And I'm not even saying like post to get more offers, but post because then if this coach in this conference sees you got that, then they're going to come and check you out. And maybe it's not for you, but maybe it'll help another teammate. And so I tell people, like, don't just post about yourself. You play with some really good players, post about them. Because if coaches come to see them, who can be a beneficiary? Like, market, that's free. People pay for all these like things. And I'm like, you're paying for that. But, even like some of these tournaments that people go to that have media people, and like, you're missing out on an opportunity to repost that stuff and start building a network of your own. And then I would just say, like, be realistic. Like, I will say that over and over to try to help like high school coaches. Like, you should really try to trust your coach, especially if they have, experience in this game. There are some people who are new and high school coaches who aren't familiar. And I always say I'd be more than willing to share what I know with anybody, because I wish somebody would have done that with me too. But trust your coaches. Like, again, what coach doesn't want their kid to play at the highest level possible? Everybody does. Like, nobody's telling you to look at this level because they don't want you to be great. So, trust your coaches, but be realistic and be open, flexible. Go. Also, I would just say, like, Rich, you talked about kids that are D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO. Go visit. Like, go watch a game. Go see. I kind of, to your point, like, kids just go where they're getting recruited or go wherever they think they can get a scholarship. Well, sometimes, at least on the girls' side, the D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO stuff, that doesn't happen until spring, summer, going into your senior year. Well, if you wait till then to see who likes me, you can't go watch them play. You can't see their style of play. You can't see the environment you're in. You can't, because like, let's be real. Like there's D1 programs that don't play in the same environment as some of these teams in the CIAA, you know? And for some of these kids, if they saw that, they'd be like, oh, dang, like I'm open.
Yeah.
I'm open to D2 if it looks like this. Like, you know, I got all these people screaming for me. Yeah, I like this. And so, but if you wait till they recruit you, you don't get to see that stuff. They can show you pictures, they can show you videos, but like, to me, I think kids miss out on that. They wait, they play the waiting game.
Yeah.
Go and watch some stuff. Go with a parent, go with a coach, let it be fun. I think there's so much stress in this. Like, go see stuff. Even if it's a school that you're like, nah, I'd never go there, it's way too close. Okay, but go and see what else you like. Like maybe you go and you're like, man, I couldn't have a coach who talked to me like that.
Yeah.
Okay, like that's fine. Then that, you know, you got to look for that. And so I think be proactive. You know, there's a lot, even the kids I work with, I make them do stuff. I give them homework. This is a two-way street. If you want this, you better work for this too.
Mm.
And so I see a lot of kids that say, I want to play in college, and they wait. I don't believe we're in a time period anymore where that works. Like, if I work really hard, I'll just be discovered. Probably not, kid. And I'm not trying to break anybody's dreams here. I'm just saying, like, advocate for yourself. If, again, you send emails, coach, I know that's spending a lot of your time. Or some of these kids, like, it's free. At least it's free. You're willing to spend $500 on a weekend of whatever. Go do the free stuff. So that's the advice I would give, is just advocate for yourself. You know, go learn, be open, and just see, again, even if you're a low D1 kid, go see some stuff, and then you can learn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've had quite a bit of talent, and I got to put you on the spot with this question, because this is.
Oh gosh, no! I hope it's not the question I'm thinking of.
Yes, listen, you have had the opportunity to coach siblings, right? Out of those two, which one is your favorite basketball player? Not favorite kid, but which one is your favorite basketball player to coach?
Sibling? You're talking about out of siblings that I've coached?
Yeah. So did you
at West?
So you've had the opportunity with well, you work with Gina right now, right?
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, you're gonna kill me.
The opportunity to coach Shakira. Which one is your favorite basketball?
Well, I've never gotten to coach Gina. They're so different. I'm not answering this. So I never have gotten to coach Gina. I would have loved the opportunity to, because she's just an incredible kid. Like, she's very talented, but she's an incredible kid.
Yeah.
Shakira is one of my favorite players I've ever coached, not because she's just my favorite, even though Shakira would say that. Like, Shakira's like, oh, I'm your favorite. Shakira came to me. I coached a lot of kids that when I got them, they were there. They were good. It was just like fine tuning and helping push them. But like, I've coached some really talented kids. When Shakira came to me, Shakira was moldable. She was naturally gifted in basketball, but she used to shoot with two hands. I have all these videos I send her yearly. Like, she used to shoot with two hands, but it would go in. Shakira's one of those kids, could throw it up backwards and it would go in. She just natural touch. But I really got, like, I think Shakira was my first player that I really got to coach and develop.
Yeah.
And so when I look back, you know, I coached several really talented kids that I got to coach and help, but anybody could have coached those kids and those kids would have made them look good. Shakira's she was always tall and lanky, but Shakira didn't know a ton about basketball. I mean, I gave her one of my clipboards and she would draw the plays, and she was very naive. Like, she had no clue how good she was. We went to Campbell camp. She had never practiced with us and didn't know any of the plays, didn't know anything. It was summertime, and she did really, really well. And like, we go to this like little diner on campus to eat, and she's walking in, like talking to herself, doing weird stuff. Like, she was such a like interesting. Shakira is just so funny. She gave me a lot of gray hairs when I coached her.
Yeah.
But it was like rewarding because I really felt like I got to develop her. Gina, I've worked out with Gina some. Obviously, I've known Gina since she was itty. She's never been itty bitty, but
Yeah.
Gina didn't want to play college basketball. Like she didn't want to do basketball. And so when she was younger. And so it's been really rewarding to know Gina and their family for so long.
Yeah, family, yeah.
But since I haven't coached Gina, I can't answer that. But I will say, like, Gina's so mature. She's had to overcome a lot of adversity. So she just got an offer recently from Virginia Tech. And so we went on that visit, and I didn't know they were offering her. And I had some younger kids there as well. And so we went in the head coach's office, and she offered her. I mean, she's just talking and then threw it out there. I mean, I just start like boo-hooing.
Yeah.
I just start crying.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, once I had my own kids, I'm like super emotional. And her and her mom are thrilled and excited. And I just start tearing up because that kid has been through so much, and she's so optimistic. She just keeps working. Like her faith is really strong. She's just an awesome kid. So I wish I got to coach Gina. Like when I was stepping away from West, I was like, oh, like everybody asked, like, you're not going to stay to coach Gina? And I was like, yeah, this is hard. But
yeah.
But it's been really nice being able to still be a small part in what she's doing. But obviously Shakira is special to me too. She still helps me with my fall league and a lot of different things. And so, yeah, I love their family, but not answering it. That's the long-winded answer of not answering.
That was a good answer. That was a good answer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You maneuvered through that one all the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Listen, we have enjoyed this. I think, this is going to help people. I have never coached on the girls' side, but I know how hard it can be to coach because girls do listen, but like you said, you have to go through different things of trying to get them, motivated or teaching the game differently than you will with boys. So I commend anybody that can coach girls and get the best out of them and, just keep going because I know that can be a tough thing, because like you said, there's always an uphill battle. But I love the way that, women's sports is going. Just watching some of these girls, like you said, what you're doing with these girls, getting offers and going on recruiting visits and just getting a chance to possibly like change their families' lives and their lives, with the NIL and, everything. And so, I'm very appreciative of what you're doing. I'm sure the same for Rod and a lot of people. And so, again, we just want to, get people on here where, one, we can give them their flowers because sometimes when you work in these spaces, people will not tell you, not because they don't know. It's just more of a I don't know if I really want to give them credit,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so,
or it's a competitive thing. It can be competitive. Yeah.
Y'all have to work together to get these kids, like kids at the end of the day. And so I definitely love what you're doing. I'm a huge fan since, watching you and Mel go back and forth with Glenn and Wes and just that whole thing that we used to, that CPC. And so I appreciate what you're doing and we love what you're doing. And I hope that it continues to grow.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate what y'all are doing. Richard, I love your family. I'm gonna have to get over to NCLA and check out some games too. Yeah, I will. My parents live right down the road, so I definitely will. But I appreciate y'all having me on and what y'all are doing to kind of like grow the game in this area.
Yeah. So listen, I'm gonna get this out. I'm gonna try to edit it tonight, get it out tomorrow. I know your phone probably blows up sometimes when we invite you to collab, and so we'll try to do I try to limit it to about 3 videos, just so
okay.
After about 3 videos, it's like okay, my phone keep buzzing. What's going on?
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah,
the views. I mean, outside of maybe 1 or 2 other videos, when we put you on here, the views went up.
Yeah,
people following.
Well,
and so again, that says a lot about your character and what people think of you and just what you're doing because now people are tuned in and they see, you're making a huge difference. And so I'll try to get this out first thing tomorrow. I'm gonna edit it tonight and I'll put you in some of those videos and then we'll, we hope that it's gonna continue to help with AssistU and get more girls.
Yeah, well.
those kind of
It
things.
will.
So again, Brittany, we appreciate you.
No, I appreciate y'all.
On our podcast, episode 5 with Brittany Hudson.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right.
Thank you.